Hey. Okay, right now I'm about to reveal some of the little known secrets about why the weighing scales cannot always be trusted. And starting out, the first one to consider is that it will never tell the full story. It only tells part of the story. Weighing scales can never say whether it's fat, muscle, or water weight that's being lost, and that's really, really key to remember and to keep in mind at all times. There's also a number of other factors that are going on constantly that will always have an effect on what it is going to say. Simple things like the time of the month, water weight, hormones. Hormones will always play a huge role in what it's going to say. Things like stress and sleep also have a huge effect. The time of the day. The time of the day is a big one too. Look, if I was to get on at 3 or 4 different times throughout the day, it's going to give me 3 or 4 different readings. The type of food we're eating too is going to play a role, and things like the type of training we're doing. If somebody's doing training, doing a certain type of training, it's also going to have an effect on what it says. The scales can actually be quite a useful tool, provided it's approached with the right mindset, and I think that's the problem that a lot of us will face on a day-to-day basis when approaching it, is that the mindset is a little bit wrong and there's a little bit too much emphasis on the actual outcome. And considering all the things I've mentioned above, there's so many things that can be affecting it and causing fluctuations, that it's that mindset that is really, really key to changing how we view the results. And beside me I have one of my girls, Andy, and very much would have, I suppose, obsessed about what that scale said the whole time, and the mood was probably dictated a lot by the outcome. So for you, how much has kind of understanding the different things that are affecting it on a day-to-day basis and that change of mindset helped you in approaching what that might say?
Massively, I think. Like before, like depending on what the scale said would depend on how my mood would be for the day. So if it was up, my mood was down. If the weight was down, then my mood was up. But now knowing, after tracking it for a while and knowing exactly what all the different things that are taken into account that can affect the changes in my weight, it doesn't bother me. I don't focus on what it actually says on the scales. Like there's so many factors taken into account, and there's so many other things that I take. Like if I feel good about myself and if I look good, then the weighing scales doesn't tell you everything.
Mm-hmm. And we did, like Andy said, we did actually track our weights for a full week, just to give an example of how much it can fluctuate throughout the week. So right now I'm about to show you some of those fluctuations to give you an idea. So first off, girls, huge amount of respect for Andy here, because she is about to do something which, as I'm sure you know, would terrify most girls, and that's going to share her weight with you guys. So we can have a look at this here. You see we did it twice a day, and yeah, the Friday here, you can see straight away between the Friday and the Saturday, there's a jump of 2 kilos, which that is impossible for that to be body fat. That is just hormonal fluctuations causing fluctuations in water weight, things like that as well. They're throughout the week, everywhere. It's just bouncing up and down, bouncing up and down. But as you can see here, from the start to the finish, we've actually had some nice progress. And again, we're always looking at the whole picture. So with Andy, there'd be a few other things that I'm tracking consistently too, to make sure she's making the right progress. So this is just one of the tools we're using. As you can see here, on 2 of the days in particular, so Saturday up here and down here somewhere is 66.2. It jumped up quite a lot. And what can happen a lot is, for someone who might happen, they attempt something radical, and Andy will admit herself in the past she might have fallen victim to that too and done something quite extreme. And that's when we sort of get into trouble, because it's the radical stuff that is done now which will lead to, I suppose, further complications or making things a lot harder in the future. So it's always very important to understand that, yeah, this is just one tool. There's a lot of the things that are affecting it, and not to panic and not to put too much emphasis on that the whole time. It's never linear. It's always going to fluctuate up and down for a number of different reasons. That's just the way it is, and it will never, never, ever tell anybody the full story about what's going on. That's why even simple things, like I would always say to Andrina as well, is looking at things in terms of how our clothes fitting. How do you feel on it? Like, that's a huge one. How do you actually feel? How are you looking? How do you feel you look yourself? Or how, like I said, clothes are fitting. These are huge ones. You know, if I was to feel I look good, and everything was all good, then who really cares about what that scales is saying? That's pretty much it. We have to try not to let this thing dictate our lives. It's just one thing. It's not the be all and end all. And I suppose one little tip before I go is to never get on after a bad day. On bad days, what we would tend to do is eat foods that are highly processed, full of carbohydrates, full of fats, full of sodium. In particular, it's that mix of the carbohydrates and sodium which causes our bodies to hold on to a lot of water weight. We also store a lot of a thing called glycogen too. These foods can also end up sitting in the digestive tract undigested, which can lead to quite a huge rise in what the scales might say, but it's not something to be looking at, I suppose. That is it, guys. Yeah, don't let it dictate our lives. See you.